The nominations are in and theater lovers are buzzing. It's been quite a season, dominated by stunning productions of plays, a parade of celebrities, and a surprisingly slim field of new musicals. So who made the cut? Who got left out? And what does it all mean for June 7th? On this special one-hour episode of Theater All the Moving Parts, our outspoken panel of theater experts have a lot to say. Welcome. I'm Pacheco. The 79th Annual Tony Award nominations have been announced, and they tell the story of a season that delivered richly on a host of dramatic works, some with no shortage of star power, while musical theater lovers were left with a notably shorter list to debate. But that certainly didn't stop them. Joining me today are theater experts with a close eye on this season. Janice Simpson is a theater journalist. Adam Feldman, theater editor and chief reviewer of TimeOut New York, Margaret Hall, theater historian at Playbill, and Zachary Stewart, chief critic at TheaterMania. Welcome to you all. We've got a lot to get through, but I wanted to start our conversation by asking you how the nominations reflect the season that just ended. Jan, let me start with you.
I've been thinking, and I think the word that sums up the season is big. And so we had big stars, many of them are nominated. We had, particularly in the musicals, big campy shows. And if they weren't big campy shows, they were just big. And some shows that dealt with some big ideas, big things that are sort of roiling society right now. So that's the word I used to sum up the season and the nominees.
Good one.
I think that looking at the nominees reflects something that we all kind of already knew about the season, which was that it was much more exciting for revivals than it was for new works, especially when it comes to musicals. As we know, there were only 6 original musicals this year. In the past couple seasons, there have been something like 15. That's a huge difference, and it means that there's a lot less to pick among, but there have been very strong revivals, a very strong slate for play revivals, and so all of those things are going to add to the competitive nature of some of these categories.
Great.
My big takeaway from this class of nominees is how long the memory of the season has been for people. There are things that came through in the fall that are just as fresh in our memories as things that opened only a couple weeks ago, and it's reflected this year.
And you're talking about both the nominators and people ourselves.
Absolutely.
As well. Good point.
I think they were brutally fair. I mean, the price of tickets is so high on Broadway that you have to make it an event as a producer. And the answer to that has often been celebrity. So you get Keanu Reeves and Alex Winters, Bill and Ted, reunited in Waiting for Godot. On Broadway, you get James Corden, Bobby Cannavale, and Neil Patrick Harris in Art. This sells tickets. That show recouped. But when it came to the nominators, they were completely left out of this. And so it's kind of a check on this trend towards celebrity that has been going on Broadway in response to the financial crisis that grips the industry.
Great overview, and now let's dig into exactly where the nominators went with their nominations. We'll start with the plays. For Best Play, The Ballisters with 5 nominations, Giant with 4, Liberation with 5, Little Bear Ridge, the sole nomination. What jumps out at you from the plays that I just mentioned?
Oh, well, first of all, as I was saying before, there were fewer of them than we sometimes get, and so there are only 4 nominees because there were only 8 new plays. That means the category will only have 4. I think that Little Bear Ridge Road is a good illustration of something that, had it opened a couple weeks ago, it would be fresher in people's minds, and I think it would have gotten more nominations. It's really, for me, one of the highlights of the year. Here, Little Bear Ridge Road is nominated for Best Play, but it has no other nominations. That is a little disappointing to me because I think it's terrific. But all of these are good entries. All of these are contenders.
You and Zachary are members of the New York Drama Critics Circle. You chose to give Little Bear Ridge your best play. Why?
Well, we considered Liberation last season, frankly, and so we really couldn't consider it this season. Samuel D. Hunter has already won this award, Best Play, at the New York Drama Critics Circle. He won it for A Case for the Existence of God in, was that 2022?
Yep.
Yes. And so kind of emerging as a favorite, perhaps, and a great dramatist. This was his Broadway debut. It was kind of unfair that it closed as soon as it did, but it opened at a difficult time. It wasn't moving tickets. So this is a great way to remember it. It is a great play, and I hope that it gets mounted at regional theaters around the country.
Margaret, Bess Wall's Liberation, just before the nominations were announced, also won the Pulitzer.
24
For
hours
the
ahead.
Pulitzer, the acknowledgement from the New York Drama Critics Circle, and now this nomination, do you think that gives it a leg up to win Best Play?
It certainly doesn't hurt, especially when it's a play that is no longer currently running on Broadway. Voters can't go and freshly see it right now. Having the sort of added bonus of the momentum that's being built with the Pulitzer, with the other awards that are being heaped upon it, it is reminding people to dig back in their memories and think about what they saw previously.
Yeah, and you mentioned the New York Drama Critics Circle Award for Liberation. We didn't give it Best Play last year, but we did give it a new award that we created, a new award for the Best Ensemble Performance, because the ensemble of Liberation was really memorably excellent.
Jan, given the subject matter, Mark Rosenblatt's Giant landed on Broadway like a ton of bricks. What did you think of it?
Well, the subject matter being anti-Semitism, and coming at a time when we're all trying to sort through our feelings about the war and what constitutes anti-Semitism. I'm not sure that the show dealt as straight on with it as I expected. This is about Roald Dahl's, the writer Roald Dahl's infamous essay that he wrote. My feeling is that right now people want to laugh, they want uplift, and nobody's walking out of this show smiling.
But the parallels are amazing insofar as the review that you mentioned, Jan, was about a book called God Cried, which was the 1982 incursion by the Israeli forces into Beirut
Lebanon.
and the death of thousands. How did you, Adam, respond to the play? Because Roald Dahl makes compelling arguments that are then rebutted, obviously, by two other characters.
Yes, I think that one of the things that I liked about the play is that it does give Roald Dahl some intellectual space and some goodwill in a way to make arguments, that, and his argument is essentially, his argument begins by being that being anti-Zionist or being anti-Israel doesn't necessarily make you anti-Semitic. It evolves over the course of his reaction into something that I think is more clearly anti-Semitic. And then the question is, was that underlying his initial position all along? These are things that we're struggling with every day today as people wrestle with these issues. I think that the clear leader for me in this race right now is Liberation. I think it's coming in with momentum from the Pulitzers, and I think although it was serious, it also had a degree of humor and uplift that give it an advantage.
Just to get back to Giant for a minute, is an issue that it brought up was, can you separate art from the artist? Whether you're talking about Michael Jackson or Wagner. Just briefly, Jan, can you separate the art from the artist?
I think I can.
Adam?
I think I can as well. I make an effort to.
If they no longer make a financial benefit from my support, so if they're deceased or otherwise detached from the project.
So you wouldn't go see Michael?
I'm not going to that film.
Zachary?
No, you can't, but that's no reason to boycott the art.
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating issue, and the fact that Roald Dahl did not pay a price for his anti-Semitism was what bothered me most of all. And I feel very uncomfortable going to plays like the Lehman Trilogy or Merchant of Venice or even this play, with whom I saw with a friend of mine whose family had survived the Holocaust. And she had a very, very difficult time with it and said later as we left, I don't understand why I, as an American Jew, must answer for the Israeli government.
Well, but that's a question. That's a question that's raised in the play. I think that doing things like Merchant of Venice, Merchant of Venice has a long, centuries-long history of anti-Semitic representation. Does that mean that we can't do Merchant of Venice, or does that mean that when you're doing Merchant of Venice, you need to address that and figure out a way to make it work, or to identify and think about the ways in which it reflects anti-Semitism? If there is anti-Semitism built into an art, a piece of art, it can be interesting to tease that out. It can be instructive. It can be historically illuminating. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't look at the art. It just means we have a different lens through which to look at the art.
I guess we should go on to the next category, which is Best Play Revival. And those are Becky Shaw by Gina Gianfrido, Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman, Every Brilliant Thing by Duncan Macmillan, Noel Coward's Fallen Angels, and Sophocles' Oedipus.
Very, very much a new play, in my opinion, a significantly new piece that is based on Oedipus, and I feel like it's a little weird to have it in work. For me, the Best Play Revival category, it was very strong. The fact that there aren't certain things on it reflect how strong it is. Marjorie Prime is one of those. Marjorie Prime, I thought, was exceptional.
Agreed.
And for me, should be on this list, but can't have it all.
Zachary, do you feel that Death of a Salesman is the definitive production of the 6 revivals that have been done from since the original in 1949?
Well, I've only seen 2, Patrick, so I couldn't actually make that call. This is a classic American play. It's been done, some would say, to death on Broadway, but a great production nonetheless. You know, this is the category with all the action this year.
What do you think, Jan? Do you think it's a shoe-in for Best Revival?
I do.
Oh, I do too, and I think it deserves, as strong as the category is, and you could have Marjorie Prime in here, you could have Bug in here, you know, there are other options that would be perfectly at home here. Still, Death of a Salesman is the revival
What do you
of the
think,
year.
Margaret?
I did not care for this production. I always have one.
Yes, please.
To me, the definitive, I obviously have not been alive for every single production of Death of a Salesman, but I have studied it quite extensively. The Philip Seymour Hoffman revival, to me, was just sparkling. And this did not do it for me.
What's your runner-up?
I would
Yeah.
go Becky Shaw. I really, really loved this production.
It was a great production.
So this is why I think I somewhat agree with you earlier. If Becky Shaw were being considered as best play this year, which of course it doesn't belong there, but if it were, I think it would win, because I think that was the best play that I saw.
It was so
this
wonderful.
season.
Speaking of what you said earlier about bring a star in, Every Brilliant Thing is what every producer is fantasy, because they brought Daniel Radcliffe into Every Brilliant Thing, a play that had been done before by Duncan Macmillan. In less than 3 months, they recouped their $5.7 million investment.
Mariska Hargitay on her way in.
So now it's just gravy from here on in, and that's a model that I think we're going to be seeing on Broadway.
I'm a little surprised to see this in Best Play Revival over
Agreed.
Marjorie Prime and Bug. It's a fun play, but also half of it is crowd work. You know, and I think that's a different kind of play. I mean, I think it works very well as an experience, but as writing, I think there's no comparison.
And then obviously, I believe that Noel Coward's Fallen Angels got into here because of its 2 stars. I mean, and busy production.
I was going to say, you know, when you're doing the revival, you've got the tricky thing of is it the play, is it the show, or is it the production?
Right. That's actually a good point.
And here, it's hard to say that Daniel Radcliffe didn't put that thing on his shoulders and not just run around the theater with it, but really make it work. And so I think it deserves to be
And to your
in
point
the
about people
conversation.
looking for laughter, that's some of the loudest laughs I heard this entire season on Broadway.
And
In Fallen
uplift.
It's true.
And
for Every
Every
Brilliant
Brilliant Things,
Thing.
yeah.
Fallen
And
Angels as well.
uplift. Yeah.
But just
Yeah.
people are looking for joy. But the thing that's so tricky about something like Every Brilliant Thing is it depends on your audience and how well he has people to play off of. So depending on the night you go.
Do you think, by virtue of what Jan just said, that he is a leading contender for the next category, which is leading actor in a play? Will Harrison in Punch, the solo nomination that it received, Nathan Lane, Death of a Salesman, John Lithgow, Giant, Daniel Radcliffe, Every Brilliant Thing, and Mark Strong, Oedipus.
I think the Tonys has the same sort of curse that the Oscars does, where the more serious performances tend to get taken more seriously. And therefore, as much as I loved Daniel Radcliffe's work, if you look at the 4 other performances he's up against here, I mean, it's kind of hard to bet against Willy Loman.
Zachary, do you think it's a contest between Nathan Lane and John Lithgow? Or?
Absolutely. I mean, you're right, Margaret. We award, comedy is hard. Comedy is really hard.
Really
It
hard.
never gets awarded. You know, that's why I was so happy to see Rose Byrne and Kelly O'Hara in, but that is the contest. It's between those two guys. Daniel Radcliffe, if I was the dictator of the Tonys, I would have given him a special Tony and cut it out of consideration for anything else.
What Margaret said earlier, Jan, was it was great that the nominators remembered Will Harrison because it was so early in the season and a limited engagement at that. You did mention that you liked Mark Strong's co-star in Oedipus. Does it hold for Mark Strong as well?
Oh, yeah. I thought he was also terrific. I thought both of them were really sensational there. But I think for Harrison, for Radcliffe, for Strong, it's an honor to be nominated. The game is between Nathan Lane and John Lithgow, both very popular within the Broadway community among the people who vote. And we just can't discount that. It is for the quality of your performance, but it is also for how people think about you, about your body of work, about the challenges you take. And I think in that case, Nathan Lane has a bit of an edge because people did not expect Nathan Lane to be as incredible as he is in this role.
Nathan Lane has the edge?
I think it is actually really a horse race between those two, between John Lithgow and Nathan Lane.
I agree that it's neck and neck. Nathan Lane has a ghost of a lot of Willy Lomans hanging over his head, whereas John Lithgow, unless you're super familiar with Roald Dahl, he's standing singularly in the role.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's the contest.
Lead actress in a play. Rose Byrne in Fallen Angels, Carrie Coon in Bug, Susanna Flood, Liberation, Leslie Manville, Oedipus, Kelly O'Hara, Fallen Angels. Is this a no contest for you, Dan?
This is no contest for me. The performance of the season for me was Leslie Manville in Oedipus. And all I can say is if the Tony voters don't agree with me, they're wrong.
Adam, for you?
I also think that Leslie Manville has a strong, I don't want to say a lock, but a near lock in this category. I think this is one of those cases where I think Rose Byrne and Kelly O'Hara are both really good in Fallen Angels, and they also are such a pair that it would have felt weird for nominators to only nominate one of them.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably the case last year with Death Becomes Her and the leading ladies in that.
Margaret, would you be surprised if Susanna Flood won?
I wouldn't be, well, I'd be surprised but thrilled is the way I would put it. I really loved her performance in this. She was one of my surprises on nomination day. I didn't think it was going to happen. Because Liberation is so thought of as an ensemble piece, it really is an ensemble piece. But Susanna's work in this was so beautifully layered.
I've always had this feeling like, I don't know, like maybe there was a different life that you wanted to have, something more free. Like maybe you would have been happier without me.
And for her to now, the rest of her life, she will be a Tony nominee, and I think that's really well earned.
Zachary, where do you land on this?
Well, normally because of recency bias, I would give the edge to anyone in a show that's actually open, which Oedipus, I'm sorry, isn't. We have to adopt the British spelling now, cultural imperialism. But you're right, Leslie Manville holds the audience transfixed for 10 minutes, a monologue, 10 minutes in Studio 54. You could have heard a pin drop. It was one of the most thrilling moments of the season, and I think she'll be recognized for it.
In the next category that we're going to, Zachary, it's a really tough one. I mean, they're all tough, but this one really takes the cake in many respects.
A lot of icons.
Because there are 6 nominees. So the nominators themselves have problems deciding. Christopher Abbott in Death of a Salesman, he plays Biff. Danny Burstein in Marjorie Prime. Brandon J. Dearden in Waiting for Godot. Alden Ehrenreich and Becky Shaw. Ruben Santiago Hudson, Joe Turner's Come and Gone. Richard Thomas, The Ballisters. Peak performances of the season, almost all of them.
I mean, what a category. I'm so glad they remembered Brandon Durden for his incredible performance as Pozzo in that Waiting for Godot. I would give the edge, though, to Alden Ehrenreich in Becky Shaw. I think he's probably the favorite to win this.
I would agree with you, but that performance by Christopher Abbott in Death of a Salesman as Biff, Margaret.
This is the tightest category of the season for me. Of when I look at, I have an argument in my head for every single person of why I think they deserve it. I also think it's going to be Alden, but I would not count out Ruben Santiago Hudson. What he is doing in Joe Turner's Come and Gone is so beautiful.
I have to agree. This is the heartbreaker category, because even with these 6 people, there are so many other people that would be so in place in this list. I mean, just from Death of a Salesman alone, I don't know which of them will win. They all could. The Drama Critic Circle just gave it to Alden Ehrenreich, which was a bit of a surprise, I think, to everyone involved. The degree of support and enthusiasm for him.
Danny Burstein made a record with this, didn't he? Isn't
Yes.
it?
Yes,
Yes.
his ninth.
How many?
His ninth.
9.
Yeah, ninth nomination.
And where do you fall on this list?
I'm a Ruben girl all the way, Ruben Santiago Hudson. Joe Turner's Come and Gone is my favorite of the August Wilson canon of plays, his 10 plays looking at the African American experience in the 20th century. And the role that Ruben plays has almost become kind of a stereotype kind of role. And the other people who I've seen play it have played this character of Bynum, who's kind of a conjure man, kind of in touch with the spirit world, and they play him as kind of a crazy man. And Ruben doesn't do that. He plays him very grounded and yet still in touch with that other world. And of course, he has such a long history with August Wilson and August Wilson's work. He has appeared in other August Wilson plays. He's directed August Wilson plays. He was a friend of August Wilson's. This play is in his bones, and he just delivered.
And that monologue about finding your song really, applies with our next category, which was Best Featured Actress in a Play. And that is Betsy Adom, Liberation, Mary Louise Burke, The Ballisters, Aya Cash in Giant, Laurie Metcalf in Death of a Salesman, June Squibb in Marjorie Prime. June Squibb at the age 96.
Had her birthday on the stage.
On birthday during the run. So what do you think of this category?
I love June Squibb so much. I truly adore June. I thought the work she did in this was so fascinating. The way she arced the character of Marjorie versus when Marjorie's transformed later within the piece. Things that you think, oh, she's 96, I'm gonna sort of like forgive these sort of like foilables and behaviors, and then you see her strip them away, and I'm like, oh no, that's the character of Marjorie. June is fine.
She made her Broadway debut in 1960 as a replacement for Electra in the original production of Gypsy.
Wow.
She has got Ethel Merman's stories.
What do you think, Adam?
Another category that I might have nominated different, but also just one where there are so many excellent contenders. That said, for me, it's Laurie Metcalf in Death of a Salesman.
Do you think that Laurie Metcalf will be swept in to the many wins? I think that Death of a Salesman is going to win. Zachary?
Well, I call this the rule of Whoopi Goldberg, right? You should have given Whoopi Goldberg an Oscar for The Color Purple, but you give it to her for Ghost. I think here, like you said, she wasn't nominated for Little Bear Ridge Road. It's been an incredible season for Laurie Metcalf. This is the opportunity for the voters to reward her for her excellent performance in Death of a Salesman. And I think she will, although June Squibb is going to be hard to beat.
And also, June has the narrative of, if we're going to give June Squibb a competitive Tony, this is probably our shot.
At
Mary Louise
96,
Burke is the same
you
way. It's her
never
first
know.
nomination.
Yeah.
And she's wonderful in The Ballast.
She's so wonderful in The Ballisters.
We have to wrap up this section of the play nomination. I think that it gave us a real compendium of sterling performances. That acting on Broadway is in very, very good shape. People commanded the stage in extraordinary ways. We're not even talking about the fact that so many plays were written by women. And that's very, very good news indeed, Margaret.
It turns out we have things to say.
And Zachary, what do you think?
Oh, it's in better shape than musicals. I mean, it's just cheaper to produce plays. You can get big names attached to it. People, big stars, they want to EGOT, they want to come to Broadway, they want to get their Tony. And so you can set that up, and you can recoup, as we saw with Daniel Radcliffe and Every Brilliant Thing. So the stakes are a bit lower, the reward is higher. I think it's a great model for drama on Broadway. Musicals, not quite the same story.
Zachary, thank you so much. You gave me the segue to our next section of this 1 hour special in the best musicals. The Lost Boys, Schmigadoon, exclamation point, Titanic, Two Strangers. Zachary.
Well, there's only one really big, spectacular musical this spring, and that's The Lost Boys.
I wanna belong to someone. Someone make me feel like a dime. Give me what I never had. Be the place that I belong.
It represents the frontier of the design arms race on Broadway. Shows have gotten bigger, sets have gotten bigger, they've gotten louder, the lighting is more intense, the projections are cutting edge. And Lost Boys has all of that. It is a spectacle. You see your money on stage, which when you're paying $200 a ticket, you want to see. The only problem is it's not a very good musical. It suffers, it has a terrible second act, there's a ridiculous way that it wraps up very quickly. And so I think there's going to be a huge dissenting vote this year, and I think a lot of that is going to benefit Schmigadoon, which is this celebration of Golden Age musicals. It's a parody mashup of Carousel and
The Music
The
Man.
Music Man, certainly, and a little bit of The Sound of Music.
Why is there music coming from everywhere?
We are in a musical and we are stuck here.
Kill me, right now.
And some Brigadoon.
Coded world.
Fair amount of
Brigadoon and
Brigadoon,
some
Brigadoon
Oklahoma.
Rainbow, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So Margaret, is big better, bigger, better
I think
than,
big-
say, the two-character play, Two Strangers
Strangers.
Carry a Cake Across New York?
This is a place where you can come and watch the city on Saturday night.
What about Ethan?
No.
JJ.
No.
Jet,
no,
Brad,
no,
Rod,
no,
Joe.
no.
Oh, hello, handsome.
Okay, that's you?
Yeah, that's me.
Thousands of planes fly out and never find whatever paradise they're trying. Taxi!
Are you sure?
You have one night in New York, Dougal. Let's do this. Just follow my stride. Just follow my stride.
I'm Bonnie,
I'm Bonnie, you're Clyde. Bring on the east and our ride on the American. On the American Express.
I think everyone has their own individual tastes. I'm personally team Lost Boys here. I do caution, however, against saying that the model of musicals on Broadway is broken in some way, though. I think this is just a natural result of how crowded last year's crop of musicals was. Things just got loaded in a weird way in terms of eligibility deadlines and things along those lines. I don't think the musical's in danger. I think we're just in a funky sort of a year. However, in terms of what we're looking at here, Schmigadoon, while I had a wonderful time, I struggle with how similar it is to the televised production. Whereas The Lost Boys, I'm familiar with both the film and the stage version. It is doing something different with that material, and I will always go for a transformative adaptation versus just a straight paint by numbers.
Well, as we know, you're a vampire lover.
Just a little bit.
Any love for Titanic or Titanic?
I like Titanic. And I like Two Strangers. Both of them, I think, are a little lightweight to contend seriously for Best Musical. Schmigadoon is also quite lightweight. It's very tongue-in-cheek. It's very campy. It's very wink-wink. It's playing to me, so like I am the audience for Schmigadoon, so I enjoyed it very much. But I think that The Lost Boys, for all of its flaws, is more ambitious about the art form that it's doing. It's not as backward-looking. It is certainly extremely ambitious scenically, and I think that it's very exciting in a way.
Jan, would you be surprised if Two Strangers won? It did win 8, or it was nominated for 8 different categories. Everything I think it could have been nominated for. Would you be surprised if it pulled an upset? according to us, 4.
I think
Or
I
us
would
5.
be. I think I would be surprised. It's a show that I liked a lot. It's
I join you in that.
It's a, it's a small show, but I like that it was an original show about this British guy who's coming to New York for a wedding, and he and the sister of the bride spend like 36 hours experiencing New York and getting to know themselves as people better. Again, it's a 2-person musical, so very small, very intimate. I think when particularly when we're talking about the best musical, Tony, I think they are looking at that as what is the show we want to sell? What is the show we want to bring people in for the summer? And I think with that, it's The Lost Boys. There's a lot of camp on Broadway of this year.
You think?
And so I wonder how you portion out that audience, how many people want that experience. I think people coming in again from other parts of the country, people coming from abroad, if they're still coming, do come. If they're still coming, can appreciate a show like The Lost Boys, because you don't really need English to really enjoy that.
Probably better if you don't have
show.
it.
It's a spectacle.
And it's a very intentional thing they've done. They
It's a
compare themselves to
spectacle.
the 80s mega musical boom, where it's like you're getting a feast visually.
It's enjoyable, I think, on many. Even the set is not even, but the set is really entertaining. And I don't want to sound as though I'm demeaning this show in a way, because a lot of smart thinking, a lot of creativity went into the show. My hat is off to Michael Arden, who is just a really, really innovative musical mind right now. And so I would think The Lost Boys is in the lead.
There's a lot of camp and glitter, and there's no shortage of that in the revival category, which is our next category. And that is Cats, the Jellicle Ball, Ragtime, not much glitter there, the Rocky Horror Show. Margaret, it's really between Ragtime and Jellicle Ball.
I think so, but I would not count out Rocky Horror. It has a very devoted, die-hard base. There's a reason it's basically redefined cult classic, both on screen and stage.
But do you think that base is among the voters, who are about 800 in number, 800 plus?
850.
They've had 50 years to get on that train. I definitely think there are voters that are Rocky Horror heads. However, if I was placing a vote, the easiest vote I would file would be Cats Jellicle Ball, because that is the definition of a transformative revival to me. It is unlike any other production of Cats that has ever existed.
Judges, your scores. 10s across the board.
Do you think that'll tip it in its favor, that what Margaret just said in terms of a reinvention, which we look at revivals for?
Oh yeah, I would have given this to Ragtime hands down around the new year. I would have said this is theirs to lose, but Cats coming in like this, it is just such a different way to look at a musical. Everybody thought they knew what it sounded like, what it looked like. It still sounds the same, but it looks very, very, very different. It's just a different experience. So I think that could get it the win.
I love Jellicle Ball. Jan, do you love it as much as we all do?
Well, I think it's fun, but I think in this category, it's kind of one of those prestige awards where you can vote for commercial interest for best musical. You can vote for the play that really speaks to you. And I think this is kind of like what they do with Best Picture in the Oscars, where they're saying, this is who we are. We are noble, wonderful, earnest people. And that sort of tips it towards Ragtime.
singing a dream. La, 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 la. The sound of distant thunder suddenly starting to cloud.
Except that, in a way, Cats, it's giving a finger to the current administration.
Agreed.
And I think there is an interest in doing that. It's saying, you don't like certain kinds of people, you don't
Talking about
think
the trans community.
you don't think interest in diversity, in queer interests, in just people being inclusive, being expressive, and being joyous. We're not over here, sobbing and crying. We are being joyful. And so that might tip it the other way. So I don't know. It's
I 100% agree. I think ragtime is solemn, and it's liberal, of course, in its politics, but it's liberal for me in this kind of basically Upper West Side, late 90s way.
Lincoln Center.
Yeah, Lincoln Center. It's a Lincoln Center noble. Cats, for me, is also politically charged, especially in these times. And it is so invigorating, as you were saying, so joyous. And I think it's the best, maybe it's the clearest, certainly, production of this musical that has ever existed. In terms of the actual storytelling, in terms of the emotional stakes, I think most of the musical categories are going to come down to a fight between these productions. And ultimately, for the best musical thing, for best revival of a musical, they're going to have to sort of weigh out who's also, I think that Ragtime has a really good shot at winning Best Actor and Actress. I think that Cats has a really good shot at winning Best Director and Choreographer. But we'll get to those categories. But I think what I mean is it's going to be a distribution among these.
So you're saying that on Tony night, if the number of wins will basically determine
Not
who's actually
necessarily,
going to
but I
win?
think that people do take that, to look at that while they're thinking about it. If you gave every other award to Ragtime and you're looking at Best Revival, you'll probably also give it to Ragtime.
I mean, if Ragtime does lose, it'll be the second time it loses to Cats, because it lost to The Lion King originally, and now it may lose to Cats, the Jellicle Ball. A lot of that may have to do with who wins Best Direction of a Musical, which is our next category. That is Michael Arden for Lost Boys, Lear de Bessonnet for Ragtime, Christopher Gattelli for Schmigadoon, Tim Jackson for Two Strangers, and Jalon Livingston and Bill Rausch for Cats, the Jellicle Ball. So I think that might just determine who wins. I mean, all of these directors, and certainly Michael Arden and Lee de Bessonnet, and all of them, except for Tim Jackson, had to herd a lot of Cats and actors.
Absolutely.
So who did the better job? Let's just go there. Zachary.
Well, Michael Arden is certainly taking the biggest, most expensive risks on Broadway right now. He also won last season for Maybe Happy Ending. So I wonder if the voters will give him a rest this year and perhaps choose someone else.
Margaret?
I think this is Jalon's and Bill's to lose. What I'm talking about with the transformative revival goes back to the two of them. They are the pulse of this production, whereas Lair, what she's doing with Ragtime, it's not an exact replica of the original production, but it's certainly much closer than the original Cats in this production of Cats.
Right. And so what do you think, Jan?
Yeah, I think it's Cats, the Jellicle Ball. This was Bill Rausch's idea originally, and he was smart enough to pull in Jalon Livingston, and the two of them have just they have reimagined this work. And we often talk about when you're doing a revival, I know we're out of the revival category, but when you're doing a revival, why? What are you doing that we didn't see before? Right. And they just answer this in spades.
If Jellicle Ball wins, Adam, does that mean that it's going to win revival?
No, it doesn't mean. As I said before, I think that some categories are leaning more towards Ragtime, some more towards Cats. Yeah. This one for me leans more towards Cats. I just want to say quickly, because I did interview them for my own podcast, Sitting Ovations on YouTube. I interviewed the two of them, and Jalon wasn't exactly brought in. He had separately come up with his own idea on it. So but they both independently came up with versions of this idea, and then they collaborated together on it. But I agree, it's a really strong, they balance each other out so well. And I think that this is, for me, just easily the the contender.
In terms of our next category, there are two actors that are nominated for Ragtime. That's Joshua Henry and Brandon Uranowitz. And the rest of the leading actor in a musical category is filled out with Nicholas Christopher in Chess, Luke Evans in Rocky Horror Show, and Sam Tuddy in Two Strangers Carry a Cake Across New York. Sam Tuddy won the Olivier for Dear Evan Hansen. He's nominated this time, and he carries that show on his back. Do you think that Joshua Henry and Brandon Uranowitz are going to split the vote?
No, I think that Joshua Henry is going to win, and I think that if Joshua Henry doesn't win, I will eat all of these cards.
If Joshua Henry doesn't win, there's going to be a riot in the
There will be
winner's
riots
circle.
on the streets, and well, there should be, because as great as these other performers are, and Nick Christopher is so talented and has been doing it, I'm so glad he's getting recognized now. Brandon Uranowitz is amazing in Ragtime, and he's probably the one maybe who redefines his role the most strongly of all of the contenders. I think he brings a huge amount of charm and interest to that part. Sort of the least, of the three characters, the least compellingly written. But no, it's Joshua Henry. The voice, everything comes together. I mean, he gets 2 standing ovations in the middle of the show for
Do
singing.
we all agree that it's a slam dunk for
Yeah.
Joshua Henry?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, then we can go on to the next category. Leading actress in a musical. Not sure if there's any slam dunk here, but we'll find out. Sarah Chase in Schmigadoon, Stephanie Hsu in The Rocky Horror Show, Casey Levy in Ragtime, Marla Mendel in Titanic, and Christiane Pitts, Two Strangers. I think this is a fairly competitive category, unless somebody wants to disagree with me.
Fairly
and say
competitive with some
there's a lock.
surprises that have come through. I wouldn't necessarily say Marla is a lock, but she's who I think has the edge here, because I think if Titanic's going to be honored in one of the top categories, this is where it's going to be.
What do you say? What do you
This is so much of her brainchild. She has been involved in it and developing it for a decade now. Her Celine Dion is Titanic to me. And I think if this is going to be a production that goes home with hardware, it's going to be Marla.
And she's still writing it, right? She improvs the scene every single night, and
Every
she's
night.
often providing commentary on the rest of the Broadway offerings. From the stage there, it's almost like a stand-up routine. It is a hilarious show. Have a martini and go. You're going to have a great time at Titanic. Yeah,
Yes.
if Titanic gets anything that night, it's going to be for Marla.
I think there's still really a strong chance that Casey Levy will win for Ragtime. And that was sort of the conventional wisdom during the year. I think it is shifting a little maybe, but I think maybe I would still give her a slight edge.
I was just glad to see that Stephanie Hsu
Agreed.
got nominated because I thought she was terrific in the Rocky Horror.
So wonderful and so nice to have her back.
Jan, what do you think? Did you love Titanic enough to put in Marla Mendel?
Well, I would say she's like 50% of the show.
Yeah.
And so, and I think people are sort of charmed by her. And so I think she has a good shot.
We're going to go to our featured actors in a musical, and we'll do something of a rapid fire, but I will introduce those. Best featured actor in a musical: Ali Louis-Bourgeois, The Lost Boys; Andre DeShields, Cats, The Jellicoe Ball; Bryce Pinkham, Chess; Ben Levy-Ross, Ragtime; Leighton Williams, Titanic. All right?
Leighton Williams, Titanic, who also won the Olivier for the same role.
Adam.
Leighton's amazing in Titanic, but it's Ali Louis-Bourgeois for me all the way. I think whether you like Lost Boys or not, I think it's a sensational performance.
Margaret?
I think it's a race between Ollie and Leighton. I would give Ollie the edge.
Will go to Andre DeShields, should go to Leighton Williams.
All right. And in Best Featured Actress in a Musical, Shoshana Bean, The Lost Boys; Hannah Cruz, Chess; Rachel Dratch, The Rocky Horror Show; Anna Gasteyer, Schmigadoon; Nichelle Lewis, Ragtime. Go, Zachary.
Shoshana.
It's Shoshana's time.
I will also say Shoshana being Lost Boys.
Make it a foursome.
Wow. That
Sexy.
seems like a lock.
Love.
All right. Well, we ended on a lock of all things. After all that competitive talking about, the only thing that I would say is that shout out to Saturday Night Live. There's Rachel Dratch, Anna Gasteyer, And Lauren Michaels included as the producer of Schmigadoon.
Yes, and
So there
Bowen
we go.
Yang, a producer of Titanic.
There you go. The rest of the categories that we're going to talk about will basically mount that momentum if they win that you were talking about, Adam. And that's Best Choreography, Best Book of a Musical, and Best Original Score. So in terms of how these land will basically determine, who will win in the top categories. So let's get at them. Best Choreography, Christopher Gattelli, Schmigadoon, Arturo Lyons and Omari Wiles, Cats, The Jellicle Ball, Eleanor Scott, Ragtime, Ani Taj, The Rocky Horror Show, Lauren Yolongo Grant, and Christopher Cree Grant for The Lost Boys.
I think it's at least for me, between Chris Gattelli for Schmigadoon. I loved his old-fashioned golden age musical, big numbers. They were high-spirited, but obviously it's the dance in Cats. It's always been the dance in Cats. And this dance that brings in the ballroom dancing that people may recognize from either Paris is Burning, the documentary, or the TV show. Why am I so... Pose, thank you. Blanking on the show, which is also a total delight. Probably leaning towards the Cats guys.
I love Chris Gattelli's work in Schmigadoon. I think it's a lock for the Cats people.
I think it's a lot for Cats, but I also wouldn't count out Lost Boys because they're including the aerial element in this nomination.
So what do you think? Cats?
Probably Cats.
Cats.
Yeah.
Then in terms of the Best Book of a Musical, The Lost Boys, David Hornsby and Chris Hock, Schmigadoon, Cinco Paul, Titanic, Marla Mendel, Constantine Rizzulli and Ty Blue, Two Strangers, Jim Barn and Kit Buchan. So if Lost Boys wins Best Book of a Musical, does that mean, Zachary, that it's going to win Best Musical?
Oh, not necessarily, and I don't see it winning this category either, frankly.
Who do you see winning?
Well, I actually think Titanic. I'm going to go back on something that I said earlier where it was just Marla, and I think Titanic for me is, it's this hilarious parody of a movie that we all know, but through the lens of musical theater. So I think that actually has a shot.
What do you think, Adam?
I think it's between Schmigadoon and Lost Boys, and it will partly depend on what people want to have for Best Musical. No show has ever won just Best Musical and no other Tonys.
Do you think Schmigadoon, the fact that it was actually written as a television show, miniseries, I guess 2 seasons of it, will work against it in terms of winning Best Book?
I absolutely think it works against it in both Best Book and Original Score. I'm frankly kind of astonished it was ruled eligible for Original Score. For Best Book, though, I would not count out Two Strangers, because this is the only non-adapted book that we're dealing with here in terms of an original story, and I think that will count for some people.
It's so fascinating because it sounds to me like there's this shift among us that Lost Boys has the momentum. And whether it wins book will be a good indication of whether it becomes the best musical of the year. And also if it wins score, which I thought was one of the weakest parts of The Lost Boys myself. I didn't find it memorable. But the nominees for Best Original Score, Adam, are Death of a Salesman, Carolyn Shaw, Joe Turner's Come and Gone, Steve Barcanetti, The Lost Boys, The Rescues, Schmigadoon, Cinco Paul, and Two Strangers, Jim Barn and Kit Buchan, which I thought was very effective.
I think this is one, people talk about snubs. I think this is one where there actually is a snub. And that means, for me, there's no doubt in my mind that Stephen Schwartz's score for Queen of Versailles should be in this category.
Things are looking hopeless, but we know it's a fact. In America, you can have a second act. So despite the current trends, watch this time next year when I host the opening of Versailles.
Instead, there are 2 scores for plays. I like those scores, but Stephen Schwartz wrote a very good score for Versailles, even if whether you like the show or think it worked on it, and I didn't think it worked overall, but there's a lot of really good work in that, and I think it's weird that they didn't nominate it. It's petty. Honestly, it feels wrong. But in this category, I think this is where I think Lost Boys has a really good shot at book. I think it has less of a good shot in this category. Schmigadoon is probably the best on merit, but a lot of people will hold against it the fact that a lot of these songs appeared first on television. So I think this is one where if people want to give something to Two Strangers, and there is a lot of affection for it, I think this is probably where Two Strangers has the best shot. I
would love to see Two Strangers win. I mean, it is a two-person musical, but it opened in the fall. It fought it out through the lean years. It is incredibly charming as a date night, I think. These two actors are giving their all. And people say, oh, there's no set. No, Sutra Gilmore's set is very, very clever. You know, it has all of these rolling luggage stacked up, and more space is created out of that. Tim Jackson's production is very clever, the way that it's on that rotating set, and it just really moves. It could probably be told in 90 minutes, but again, it's a British musical, and they have to refresh their drinkies and get their ice cream. And so there is an intermission. But you're going to have a great time if you go to this musical, and you could probably get a discount ticket.
Margaret, are you going with the Rescues?
I think it's going to be Lost Boys here, and that's why I think it's Two Strangers for book. I think this is where Lost Boys takes it. I think it's imminently more hummable. We can fight about whether or not that is a good designation, but it definitely counts for some voters.
We could fight about whether that's true.
I've had Wild and Have to Have You stuck in my head for months now.
I'm knocking on your door, let me inside. Don't let me be denied. I have to have you. Hold my breath, hold my tongue. I have to have you. In my lungs, keep me up. I have to have you.
No, that one's nice, but I think that's, I'll say Two Strangers, which is a show I have mixed feelings about. I think that it actually has a lot of really fun music, too. I don't know.
And Jan?
I'm going Two Strangers.
Two Strangers. The amazing thing throughout this conversation is that there's going to be a lot of possible surprises.
Yes.
And there's a lot of competition among all these categories. So it will be a very eventful night, I think. And we'll see how well our expert panel did in terms of their predictions. But I can't thank you enough. Our thanks to Janice, Adam, Margaret, and Zachary. The 79th Annual Tony Awards will be held on Sunday, June 7th at Radio City Music Hall and broadcast live on CBS and streaming on Paramount+. For more conversations like this, subscribe to the CUNY TV YouTube channel or download the CUNY TV app to watch all of our shows. I'm Patrick Pacheco, and we'll see you next time as the curtain rises on Theater All the Moving Parts.